Hey guys, welcome back to the Hillside. Today we've got a little front porch garden chat for you. And this is a topic I've been kind of going over in my head, trying to think about the best way to really present my ideas and get those out there. And this video is going to be dedicated to the idea of growing your own ingredients versus growing plants or vegetables or herbs, etc., etc. So what do I mean by that? Okay, well, if you look at all the recipes you make, you're cooking things at home, you're going to use ingredients, obviously, that's what you do when you cook, you use ingredients, right? But have you ever stopped to think about what ingredients you're putting into your food? Where are you getting the ingredients from? Are you going to the store? We noticed in the last little bit, sometimes that's not always going to be an option. Sometimes something you want in the store may not be there because of just the food system and shortages or whatever it might be. But going on in a little more detail of that, think about what you like to cook. Think if there's a certain particular vegetable, if there's a certain fruit, is there an herb you can't get fresh where you live? Is the quality in the grocery store really up to your standards? And I'll go back to everybody knows the example of homegrown tomatoes versus store-bought tomatoes. So if you've never grown your own tomatoes or even been to farmer's market to get authentic, true, like just nice, awesome heirloom tomato, it's nothing at all compared to the greenhouse grown, unripe picked tomatoes that they gas and they bring them across country, and they're just not quality. But when you get that nice homegrown tomato, it's just something you can't even compare, right? Well, think about that, but then think about every other plant you could grow that'd be so much better. Because I can tell you, when you get your nice organic soil going, when you get your chemical-free produce, when you get, whether you choose heirlooms or hybrids, it's really up to you. That doesn't necessarily make the flavor better or worse. It's just a personal preference. I like to grow a lot of heirlooms. I like saving the seeds. That's for another video. But yeah, so everyone knows a tomato. All right, so I can tell you that homegrown cucumbers are a lot better than cucumbers grown in the store. Homegrown, fresh, picked zucchini is a lot better than the soft, wilty stuff they sell you at the store. Okay. That being said, doesn't mean you need to go to your garden and just grow literally every single thing that you ever going to need, because that would just be A, impractical. B, if you had enough space to actually do that, the amount of plants, the amount of work that would go into that would be just staggering. That would be your entire job, trying to make a market food garden for your entire family. Which, I mean, if you're into the self-sufficiency, off-the-grid type thing, that might be something you really have to look into. That's just a really big project for somebody who's a small backyard, an urban setting, or someone who doesn't want or have the time to dedicate to full-time food production. So, and when you think about, like, trying to get into this whole ingredient, trying to get back to the topic I was talking about, write down the recipes that you like the most, whether it be for you or your family, or if there's a special holiday meal you like to cook, or there's a certain thing that only your grandmother or someone else used to make it, and it reminds you of being a kid or something like that. But the ingredients, you just don't find them around. Okay, I'll give the example of my grandmother. She's from Louisiana. She loves fresh gumbo, and she likes like fried okra. In the store here, maybe in the summertime you get a very, very, very small selection of okra, and you're talking like 4 or 5 okra pods, and they're all sad looking and grown in probably, I think, Florida or somewhere the sticker that came from, like way down south. It's not worth eating. Okay, I wouldn't buy that and say, hey grandma, eat this and feel good about it. But it's so easy to grow your own okra, and if you actually continuously harvest it and pick it, you can freeze it. 7 or 8 plants is going to be more than enough for 1 or 2 people to live on for probably an entire year, unless you eat okra all the time. But if it's like a special occasion, only when you're making a gumbo, or maybe you make a small batch of fried okra for yourself for a meal, once every couple weeks or something throughout the summer. At least in my situation, for my family, because I'm probably the only person that would eat okra anyways, that I could be completely self-sufficient in that one thing. So is there something that you consider your own eating habits or your own food habits? Think about one ingredient, one thing that you could do completely on your own that lasts you an entire year. Just think about it. Okay, parsley. If you bought parsley at the store, little containers of just looks like dried green dust. I'm sure you have it in the countertop, like everybody else does. Oregano, things like this. Guys, those things are so easy to grow, so easy to grow. Oregano also is a perennial, at least in my climate. 6B, 7A, right in the middle there. Oregano is so easy to grow. It spreads. You can harvest it. It'll grow back. Parsley is not obviously a perennial, but you can get 3 or 4 plants of parsley. You can get an immense amount of produce and product from just those plants, as long as you space them out and let them have enough time to mature. You can cut them and they'll come back, cut and come back. Parsley can be frozen. You can dehydrate it. You can save your own. You can obviously, that's something you can progress towards. Just finding that one thing that you can say, hey, you know what? This year, every recipe that calls for parsley, I'm going to use homegrown parsley in. Okay, it may sound silly, it may sound simple, but I mean, just think about it. Just think about one thing you guys can do to make yourself just that much more independent, okay? That much more self-sufficient, whatever you want to get into like that. Or, just think about the quality. Just say, hey, I go to the store and fill in the blank, XYZ produce is just not good quality. Or there's such a small selection. Like, how many selections of peppers do you have to choose from? You got the bell peppers, maybe you have some serranos, probably have some jalapenos, and maybe some banana peppers, okay? They're not nearly as good as you can grow your own. I'll put it that way, not putting anybody down. But you can grow peppers so much better. And obviously, you're not going to get ripe serranos. You're also not going to get ripe jalapenos. Right in front of me here, I don't know if you can see or not, this is a serrano plant. I got 3 serranos in this pot. I will have enough serranos in this little pot here through chopping them up, freezing them, using them for chilies or sauces or salsas, whatever. I can grow enough. This is on my front porch. I mean, if I had I do have a garden. If I have these in the garden, so I'm trying to say, obviously they get bigger, they'd have more room to bush out and everything, and I would have more than enough to give away to freeze for an entire year. I mean, if you use chilies a lot, maybe you need to have 2 or 3 plants, but based it on, your own personal usage and your own personal needs. That being said, there's no reason to have 15 bell pepper plants if your family eats, never hardly uses them. Okay, so thinking more practical terms, just think about things that you can do to just help yourself out. So case in point, let me show you something. Bring a plant or 2 over here and just show you kind of what I kind of came to the, just 2 ideas I'm using this year that are new plants. So I'll show you the plants, but also show you what I'm going to do with them and talk about why I chose to grow those. So hold on one sec. All right, so right here, look right in front of me. This is actually lemongrass. This is lemongrass I've grown from seed. It's awesome so far. It's only the middle of June, so it's got a long time. As soon as the hot weather picks up, it's just going to take off. And these delicious little stalks down here is where you're going to get the lemongrass flavoring for using in cooking. Why am I growing lemongrass? Well, we have an awesome, authentic Thai restaurant downtown. It's really good stuff, and they use a lot of lemongrass in their cooking, give it that authentic taste. So I'm thinking to myself, I like to cook. I like to experiment and try, different recipes and try my hand at making some of these recipes and everything. But you know what? You don't get to buy lemongrass at the store where I live. If they did, maybe a specialty market, maybe an Asian grocer, but it's going to be hit or miss. And when you do get it, how fresh is it going to be? Not very. How old is it? You can't tell. You don't know what you're getting. But with this right here, this one pot probably has, 5 or 6 different plants in here. I probably should have thinned it out a little better when I planted it, but it kind of got away from me, the spring planting and all. But I guarantee you, for the entire year, this pot, once it grows and I harvest it and freeze it and chop it up, I'll have all the lemongrass I could possibly use for an entire year right here in this pot. So that being said, let me bring you another plant and show you what I'm doing with that and talk about that plant as well. Alright guys, so this is another plant. It's just a little guy. Just got it this year at the farmer's market as a little sapling, little seedling, if you will. But this is actually bay laurel. So this is what they grow, the bay leaves you have with cooking. For one, they're kind of expensive in the store if you want to get good, quality ones. And this guy here is a perennial, but not unless you live, in a Southern California, that type of area. It needs a drier, more arid Mediterranean type climate. However, this will actually be a great houseplant for me. I'll be able to produce enough bay leaves, because that's something I actually use a lot within my cooking, a bay leaf. It's one thing I noticed. I'm like, you know what? You pay so much money for just some old dried leaves and a little glass or plastic jar that get stale, and they're not, they're not fresh, they're not great. But this right here, it's so small. But I mean, this is, like I said, I just bought this just this year in the farmer's market, and it's already grown. You can tell, like right here up to there, this is so much growth so far, just this little spring, the little section right there. So this is going to continue to bush out. I can prune it, make it into a nice little house plant, so it serves as an ornamental purpose, but it's also going to be a culinary purpose as well. So I'm going to be able to harvest my own fresh bay leaves, use them in cooking. That's awesome. So that's another thing to look forward to. Dual purpose plants, something that's going to be great for like a house plant or a landscaping feature that also provides a functional as an ingredient for some of your cooking that maybe you can do for yourself, guys, that you don't have to go to the store and get lower quality things when it's so much easier just to grow it at home. So simple. So check this out. This little guy grew from seed. Go figure. But this is just sage. Sage is so easy to grow from seed. It will actually perennialize here in my zone. It doesn't really like to get wet feet, so make sure you plant it someplace where it's just not going to be sitting in the super saturated on the roots there. But this will turn into a bush within a year or two. I've grown sage before and it just turns into a massive bush. I had to finally cut it out because it gets kind of woody, and you're supposed to replace it after a couple of years anyhow, because the quality of the leaves is actually going to start deteriorating as the plant matures, and that's fine. But I mean, it's so easy to grow your own sage. People use sage for Thanksgiving. It's kind of a traditional for like stuffing, things like that. I promise you, if you have the space, you can grow 2 or 3 sage bushes and have more sage than you can use an entire year. I promise you, as long as you're paying attention, you watch some videos, research online how to harvest the own sage and how to use it for cooking purposes. Maybe you need to refresher on that, or just look into that. But that's something else to look into. But like I said, it's just so easy to grow your own ingredients. It's not that difficult. But think about your recipes. Think about what you grow. Think about things that you and your family enjoy. What is something that you can take out the mystery of? Something you can say, you know what? There's only 2 varieties of lettuce that I can get at my store. This year in my garden, I think I had like 5 different leaf lettuces I grew, including one Harding romaine type. All were heirloom Baker Creek seeds. Red leaves. There was green leaves with red stripes on it. There were, this yellowish leaves with purple stripes on it. There's just so many different varieties. Guys, you don't realize how much you're missing out on growing up just the same things, relying on the big box stores or the food industry to provide you with one variety of something that is just, they say, here's a commodity. All right, it's not a plant, it's not an ingredient. They're treating it as just a commodity that they're mass producing, that they don't care how they get it out there as long as they get their profit. The margins are so slim, they cut costs down to nothing just in order to survive and make it a profitable organization, enterprise, whatever. You can do this at home so much easier. I've shown through all my videos how much I can grow in a very small little urban setting. There are tons and tons of other YouTube guys and gals out there who are doing the same thing on their small properties. So find that one thing. Guys, that you can do to become self-sufficient in this year. And it's too late maybe in this June, but it's still time for a lot of people. Or if maybe think about it all year, then plan and then get a list down. And then next year you're going to go, just going to go into it and say, this year is the year I grow 100% of fill in the blank. All right, so if you have enjoyed this, if this kind of gave you some inspiration, if this has really helped you to reconsider some of the things, kind of inspired you to grow something different, to grow something completely of your own, let me know in the comments below. That's what I want to do. I want to try to inspire you guys to actually get out there and grow something that you can do that's just going to be so much better for you, for your family, as far as nutritional wise goes, as far as the taste goes, as far as no pesticides. And by that I should just say chemicals or poisons, because that's what exactly what they are. You have no idea what the kind of stuff they're putting on your fields out there, or the E. coli that you might get from lettuce, or what water source are they using, what sprays on it, herbicides, all this kind of stuff. Guys, you can do this on your own. I mean, are you going to be 100% self-sufficient and off the grid in your backyard? No, you're not. But you can pick one thing. You can pick that one thing, and you can just, say, you know what, this year it's going to be parsley, whatever it may be. You like making a tabbouleh salad, whatever, fresh parsley. That's awesome. Okay, so maybe you do that, and this year you say, hey, I was completely good on parsley this year. Or maybe, you realize that, I had 6 parsley plants, and I only needed 4 for an entire year to be self-sufficient. Or maybe you say, maybe next year I need 8, You can kind of gauge that. And once you have that down and say, you know what, I have the parsley on lockdown. I know how much parsley I'm going to use per year. I have enough to cover that. What else can I do? Is it going to be carrots? Is it going to be an herb? Is it going to be a culinary spice of some kind, you know, then after that you get one, then you're going to say, hey, I did it with one, I can do it with two, or I can do it with three. All right, so as always, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening to me talk about growing your own stuff and become a little more dependent on yourself as opposed to other people for your own food and your own ingredients. So hope you enjoyed it. Please go ahead and give it a thumbs up if this did inspire you or give you something to think about at the very least. And if you did, please subscribe. Come back later. Plenty more things to come. Plenty more garden talks and just overall hillside adventures. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.